We're laughing because we're happy. We're excited. It's Friday, the 8th day of August. Another week wrapping up.
Yeah, another great week. I keep saying the same thing. I'm like a broken record, but it's just been a lot of fun. I'm still amazed we're keeping it going. So this is kind of still the soft launch. We haven't really officially launched.
And we should note a couple things. The official launch will be September the 8th. I believe, Monday, September the 8th.
Yes.
We should also point out that next week we're off.
Yes, secret fact-finding mission. So I won't be.
We'll all be working.
Yes.
Just to be clear.
Yes. But what are you going to do without this show? What's your work?
You make it sound like that's all I do.
That was the point.
That's
what I was trying to say.
I'll find the gym. Maybe jump back into the sauna.
Find the gym. That's great. Yeah, no, that's great. Well, speaking of the gym or the sports, we should be giving a huge shout out to our friend Chris Dawson.
Yes,
great friend of the show, and was on the show this week talking about the North Bay mayor and the OPP investigation going on. But Chris is we don't give him enough. People may not know this about Chris, but he's kind of a legend in Northern Ontario hockey circles.
He's a big deal.
And has been involved with the game of hockey probably since the day he was born. And he just had a huge honor, Scott.
Yeah, he certainly did. He's going to be inducted into the new Hockey North Hall of Fame coming up in the spring. Actually, that ceremony will be held in Sault Ste. Marie.
Oh, good.
Yeah, a group of 25 individuals in the builder, coach, player category and 5 in the media bracket will be among the first ever inductees. And there he is, Chris Dawson, star of betaday.ca.
Beta, it's a great, and he's been here for almost more than 20 years.
2004.
He's been working for Beta. It's amazing. Yeah. And he's just a great human being. And his passion for the game has come out in previous segments he's done with us and just his reporting there in North Bay. But just it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. So huge congrats to Chris, a good friend of the show and a great reporter here at Village.
Absolutely. Look forward to that. Okay, to today's show, and rather ironic as we sit in the studio that today feels a little bit warm.
Yeah.
All the lights and the cameras, and it's hot down here.
Yeah, full disclosure, this is a warm room that we record in down here in the basement. We're not complaining, but the truth is it is warm. I can't even remember now. Does it get cold in the winter? I'm so obsessed with the heat right now. I don't even know if it does get cold, but it is warm down here. And like you said, fittingly enough, we're going to talk about warm temperatures.
It's not just us that are suffering through the warm temperatures where we work and spend our days.
Yes, you're right. Sinead Dougal, the deputy editor of our team at the Trillium at Queen's Park, has been doing a lot of reporting this week on parents who are concerned about the temperatures, sweltering temperatures in their daycare classrooms. A lot of these facilities are schools during the school year and now are being used for daycare over the summer. And the temperatures are just skyrocketing and the heat waves they've been having down in Toronto. And Sinead's done some really important reporting on the regulations around this. Are there regulations on how hot a school could be? She questioned the premier about it this week at a press conference. And the stories have had a ton of reaction. They've run across a lot of our local sites here at Village, and people are just reading it. Like it's obviously an issue that's impacting a lot of parents, and it's something that we hear about in the school year, kind of at the end of the school year, and even at the beginning when it's still hot, and it's one that's on people's radar, and her reporting has really kind of blown it up. So,
and the question is, who's to blame, the school boards or the province?
That's right. So we're going to chat with Sinead about that and a lot of other things.
Well, it seems as though kids are burning up in sweltering daycare classrooms that lack air conditioning. School boards say it's on the province to remedy. The province says it's a board responsibility. Meanwhile, kids are sweating it out as the buck gets passed. Sinead Dougal, our deputy editor at the Trillium, broke this story and joins us tonight on Closer Look. Sinead, great to see you. Welcome to the program.
You as well, Scott. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start from the beginning, Sinead. How did you get onto this story, and what exactly did you find out?
Yeah, so we heard a lot in June when schools were getting ready to wrap up for the summer that, hey, school classrooms are really, really hot and some don't have air conditioning. But then kids went on summer break. And so that conversation kind of died down a little bit. And then I got contacted by some parents in Toronto who basically said that, hey, our kids are in childcare, and they are in classrooms. Their childcare centers are in schools. a lot of them don't have central air conditioning, and it's really, really hot. And we've had several heat waves here, especially in Toronto, across the province, over the past couple of months. And so they were really concerned about this issue that they have these really young kids, babies, who are having to spend their entire days in these really, really hot conditions.
And there were a couple of specific horror stories. What specific things did you hear from some of these parents?
Yeah. So, one parent, she has an 18-month-old son in a childcare center. And she said that a lot of the time when, they're going to pick up their kids, the kids are just in diapers. And that's one of the ways that, the staff are having to keep the kids cool. She said that it was only during one of the heat waves last month in July, it was only a few days into that heat wave that portable AC units got installed into the classroom. And so that, it was obviously it's been a huge concern for her. She did say that, staff are doing their best to try to keep these kids cool, like whether they're doing water play, they'll incorporate things like ice cubes and they have fans, but that's still not doing enough. Another parent said that her 3-year-old is in a classroom that has a small window AC unit, but they have over 20 people in the class with kids and teachers, and it just gets really, really hot. And she mentioned that there was one weekend where there was an issue and that AC unit hadn't been turned on. And so when they came to drop off their kids on the Monday at 9 a.m., the temperature in the classroom was already at 27 degrees. Wow. And by the end of the day, that would have been over 30. So parents actually installed like a thermostat in the classroom to gauge, well, how hot are the conditions getting? She said she ended up going and picking up her daughter midday, and her daughter just, was telling her, like, I feel sick. Wow. And she also said that sometimes when other parents go to pick up their kids are literally collapsing in their arms because they're just so hot.
Sneh, we'll get into the specifics of where the onus, should or shouldn't lie in a sec. But are there no provisions in the Child Care and Early Years Act that call for, basic minimum standards of classroom temperatures?
Yeah. So, and this is apparently not when it comes to maximum temperatures. And this is one of the things that these parents are calling for. They want the province to set a standard, put into regulation or legislation, a maximum temperature for childcare classrooms. One of the parents who I spoke to, she had actually reached out to the Ministry of Education about this issue, and she received a response from the childcare help desk, essentially saying that act has no requirement around air conditioning or maximum temperatures for childcare classrooms.
Mm-hmm. Sneh, if they built a highway tunnel under the childcare centers, would that help? I'm just kidding.
Maybe.
I'm just kidding. But it goes to that. We just talked about that with Jessica and others in a panel discussion yesterday. But we talk about where the government spends their money, right? You just think like it's true that you wonder. We're talking about this radical idea to do something we've never really thought of doing before.
Yeah.
And then you have classrooms, like basic things like classrooms that don't have temperatures that students, whether students or kids in daycare, can actually handle. It just seems bizarre that this isn't something there would be a standard for.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, it's something you don't necessarily think about, or you don't think would actually be the case. One of the things that people have pointed out is that kids are more vulnerable to heat. And so you would think that given kind of the health risks, there would be something in place to ensure that these kids, especially in licensed, childcare centers that are licensed by the province, that they're that there would be some sort of measure to ensure that they're not in these sweltering conditions.
And as your reporting rightly pointed out, this is a challenge because we're dealing with a lot of cases of older buildings. They were built decades ago. That it's hard to retrofit them and get them up to that level. So I assume that's a big part of the challenge here too, right?
Definitely, and that's something that has been flagged, including by one of the opposition NDP MPPs who I spoke to. She said, it's not possible in a lot of schools to have or install these central air conditioning systems. But she did say that there are other measures that could potentially be used to help. So whether that's things like energy efficient windows or external blinds, or making sure that there's shade when kids are outside, or mist stations. So there are other ways. She said essentially that air conditioning is one of the ways to help with this situation. But there are other measures that could be looked at as well.
Sneh, I know that you asked Doug Ford about it at a press conference this week. We know he has some tunneling folks. Maybe he has some AC folks. But how did he respond to your question?
We haven't heard about the AC folks recently, but so I mean he kind of started off just saying that yes, it's really terrible that these kids are in these, sitting in these conditions all day. He said that he was all for installing window AC units, and that we should try to help kids as best we can. He did, but then he made no commitments. So he said that he can't speak to whether standards would be put in place regarding air conditioning in childcare centers or maximum temperatures. He referenced what the government did in long-term care with mandating that. And all he said regarding the childcare conditions was that we'll look into it.
I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, Sneh, but just thinking through the school year, certainly, down south, latter part of April, May, June. At what point does this become a collective agreement issue with the teachers' unions under working conditions, or has it already?
That's a good question. I mean, there are groups that are trying to get changes made, maybe not necessarily through collective agreements, but are trying to get changes made for workers generally. So like, for example, the Ontario Federation of Labor, like they've had a campaign on for, I think since last year, essentially a heat stress campaign. So they're looking for, they want this issue to be addressed for all workers. And so, and I spoke to the president of that union, and she said that this issue just kind of shows why workers' conditions essentially affect learning conditions, care conditions for kids. So that's something they're pushing as well and supportive of.
It's interesting, too, as your reporting has pointed out as well. It kind of mirrors a little bit of what happened pre-COVID, right, where there was a concern about air conditioning in long-term care facilities or temperatures in long-term care facilities. And then once COVID blew the lid off just how awful the conditions were in the province's long-term care facilities, then finally something was done. How do you get that kind of momentum in this case? I guess that's what a lot of people are wondering, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to, people talking about it, people getting raising this issue and kind of making it known within the general public. If you don't have a child in childcare, this issue may probably not come up unless you might have a niece or a nephew and you've spoken to the parents. So I think it just comes with kind of that public momentum and outrage.
Yes, yeah.
And, these parents, they did say that they're not going to let this go. A few of the ones who I spoke to were disappointed with the premier's response because they didn't think it necessarily was going to change anything now. And they didn't really see it as much of a commitment to change, but they said they're not going to let it go. And that they plan to kind of raise this with their parent advocacy groups. They're going to be talking about it with their MPPs. So I think once, more people talk about it, then it creates, kind of creates something where the government is put in a position to potentially follow through or address it a little bit.
Well, you talk about momentum for sure. Your piece, which was fantastic, the original story, as well as the follow-up, ran across most of our local news sites and got a ton of attention. Like, it was really an issue that people, obviously, it resonated with people. Have you heard from anyone outside the GTA since your reporting?
Not at this point. But I mean, I did hear from the people who I spoke to that they're like, look, like this, if this is happening in Toronto, it's happening everywhere. And which is the case. We have, especially for childcare centers that are in schools, we have older schools across the province. And a lot of them would have childcare centers, and this would be an issue inevitably in those schools as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Sneh, anything to add before we let you go?
No, thanks. Thanks for having me on. It's always good to talk to you both.
I'm serious. I want you to do some research on whether the tunnels could help. You never know. It might be
could be a
down
fix,
there.
man.
You never know.
All right, I will do that. That will be the next
headline. Perfect.
It's always cooler below, right?
Yeah, well, that's what they tell you. But,
unless you go way below.
Full disclosure, Sneh, we're in the basement of this where our studio is, and it is not cool. It is hot down here. I'm surprised we made it through the interview. So hopefully you have the air conditioning on where you are.
Yeah, we have to send you guys some fans and some air conditioning units.
That's right. Both kind of fans, both the people that listen to the show and the ones that keep us cool would be nice.
We'll take them both.
Amazing. Thank you, Sneh.
Good stuff, Sneh. Good to see you.
Thanks, you too.
Always great to have Sneh Dougal on the program. I can't believe some of those kids walking into those classrooms at 27 degrees to start the day.
Yeah.
But let's not mince words and take our time here because it's well over 27 in this
it's
room
hot
right
in here,
now.
so we need to just wrap up this show and wrap up the week. But I'm honest when I say it, Scott. It's been a great ride so far. I'm really enjoying the daily format.
Yeah.
I feel like we've got a good groove going. We've got Zach, Drew, and Derek working behind the scenes for us, and they've done a fantastic job. And it's I think it's going to be, by the time we officially launch in September, I think it's going to be just a great ride.
All right, good stuff. And listen, you enjoy your time off, well deserved.
Thank you, sir.
We'll be back in a week. All right, give us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, YouTube, across the Village Media Network, or wherever you get your favorite audio podcast, if that's more your thing. Closer look at villagemedia.ca. If you'd like to reach out, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching this week. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay cool. We'll see you in a week's time right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.